Hello everyone, welcome back to Sai Homeschool. Please like, share, and subscribe. Last classes we finished the two chapters of your class 10 chemistry, that is chemical reactions and equations. And second chapter it is acids, bases, salts. Now we will study the third chapter, metals and non-metals. So before going to the topic, so we should know the periodic table, that is metals and non-metals. If you take a periodic table, I give a rough sketch here. In periodic table, elements present in a 1 to 12, group 12. So is called metals. So the metals present in group 14 to 18 is called non-metals. So till here we will call it as a metals. Here it will come, that is non-metals. And also one more, it comes under here zigzag motion. These are called metalloids. So that is metals, non-metals and metalloids. How they classified metals, non-metals and metalloids. Metalloids are means which have the properties of both metals and non-metals. Sometimes it acts like a metal, sometimes it may act like a non-metals. Those are called metalloids. So on what properties we can classify, our scientists can classify these metals and non-metals. So simply by seeing we cannot define which is metal, which is non-metal. So that based on the physical and chemical properties, so the scientists classified the metals and non-metals. So chemical properties of a chemical reactions, that is physical properties means how they look, how they behave, how they conduct electricity, how we feel, those things, that is based on the physical properties. And how they react, chemical reactions, based on the chemical reactions they are classified metals and these periodic table elements into metals and non-metals. So in this chapter we will study first physical properties of metals. So if you see the metal, by seeing itself you can know some properties of a metal. So if you take one metal, you just observe the metal. So how it will be? So you take some examples of a metals, or maybe take any one of the metals. So here they given iron, copper, aluminium, magnesium, sodium, lead, zinc. So what are easily available metals that you have to take? You have to check the surface. So if you see the metal, it has a shiny surface. This property is called lustrous. So metals are lustrous in nature. So some metals, so I'll give you this later. So, so if you touch the metal, by touching itself, we can know that metals are very hard. So generally, metals are hard. So and also most of the metals, if you observe, they are solids. That is. So one more thing, if you take a metal, then beaten into thin sheets. So you can take a metal and you can beaten into a thin sheets, that is called malleable. So that malleability. What is malleability? They will ask. That is, metals can be beaten into a thin sheets is called malleability. Here, one important question they may ask for your examination. Then, ductility. So, the ability of the metals that can be drawn into a thin wires is called ductility. So, three questions you may get it from these physical properties of metals. First, it is what is lustrous, what is malleability, what is ductility. Lustrous is shiny substance, a shiny surface. That is, metals have shiny surface, that is called lustrous. Metals can be drawn, beaten into thin sheets is called malleability. Then metals can be drawn into a thin wire. So if you take a simple small quantity of metal, you can draw into a long wires, that is called ductility. So if you know, if you can surprise 1 gram of gold, we can make into a 2 kilometers length of wire from 1 gram of gold. So you should think 1 gram of gold, how much we can get it. So by using that 1 gram, we can drawn into a thin 2 kilometers length of wire. So because of that much malleability and ductility these metals are having. That is properties means physical properties of metal. So if you see the metal, so the metals have high melting and boiling point. So if you start burning the metal, it will not easily burn. So it has more melting point and boiling points. And also if you take a metals, so all the wires it will be made up of metals means. So to use the electricity, so some metals, so all the metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. That is good conductors. Metals are good conductors and also they have high melting point. So best conductors that heat silver and copper. Lead and mercury are completely poor conductors of heating. So here they may ask all the metals are good conductors, but except lead and mercury. That is, so we observe that here above. So all the metals are shiny surface and lustrous. So if you take small piece of iron, aluminum, magnesium, cut the metals into it with a sharp knife means. So on and observe your notifications. So few metals, all the metals it will be hard. Only some metals I'll explain that which metals are very soft, even potassium, how we can be cut with even with a knife. So that is, so metals are good conductors of electricity. So if you observe current wires, they can carry current at homes that will be coated with polyvinyl chloride PVC. It is a rubber-like material. So this, why are these electrodes coated with these substances? So what will happen when metals strike hard surface? Did they produce any sound? Yes, means here it is a, so the metal produces a sound when striking into a hard surface that is called sonorous. So here one more question. What is sonorous? Above we studied lustrous, malleability, ductility, and now it is sonorous. Sonorous is if we the metals that will produce a sound when we touch into the strike to the hard surfaces, that is metals. So non-metals. So same thing for the metals, it is opposite. First what we studied, metals are hard, non-metals are, it is soft in nature. So metals almost will occur in the form of solid. Here non-metals will be solids or maybe in the form of gases it will be obtained. So metals are malleability, that is, so here non-metals are not malleable, that is, then metals are, they have ductility means that can be made into a thin wires, that is, these are non-ductility, these are not ductile. So non-metals have low melting point and low boiling point. We studied above metals have high melting point and boiling point. Here non-metals have low melting point and low boiling point. Then non-metals are bad conductors of electricity. Then non-metals even not lustrous and not sonorous. So if you bit non-metal into a surface, it will not produce any sound. So here, what are the differences? What are the physical properties of metals and non-metals? If they ask, what you should write? Metals are, first point it is metals are hard. Non-metals are soft. Then metals are lustrous, means it has shiny surface, lustrous. Non-metals are not lustrous. So all the metals it will be solids. Here solids are maybe gases. Metals have are malleability. Here not malleability. Metals have ductility. Here non-metals are not ductile. So metals have high melting and boiling points. It has low melting and low boiling point. So it has metals are sonorous. It is non-sonorous. Then metals are good conductors of electricity. Non-metals are bad conductors of electricity. So these are the main important point you should know, and you should know what is malleability, what is ductility, what is lustrous, what is sonorous. Some exceptions we studied above is, so all the metals which are solid, no. So here, so some exceptions that we studied above is all they are having. So except, so here mercury. So all the metals are liquids except mercury. Mercury is a liquid. You can observe this mercury in a thermometer. When temperature increases, you can observe to start increasing the inside the black colored one, that is the range it will be increased. Then lead and mercury. So as we know that metals are good conductors of electricity. Here lead and mercury are also metals, but it is a poor conductor of electricity. That is, then all the metals having high melting and boiling point. Here if you come to gallium and cesium, it has low melting and low boiling point. And some more, that is alkali metals. So we know that it is very hard, we cannot cut with a knife. But sodium and potassium, these even we can cut with a knife. Means sodium and potassium is also metals, but it is soft in nature. So even we can cut this with a knife. That is cut. So that is the exceptions of metals we should understand. So if you come to non-metals, non-metals are lustrous, we know that. So if you observe the iodine, iodine has a lustrous, it is shiny, it is having shiny surface, but it is a non-metal. Then allotropes of carbon. Allotropes of carbon means, allotrope means different form of carbon. Different forms of carbon. One it is a diamond and one it is a graphite. So as of we studied about the non-metals, so non-metals are soft. But diamond is a non-metal, but it is hard. That is allotrope of carbon. Then graphite. So as we know that non-metals are bad conductors of electricity. If you take a graphite, it is a good conductor of electricity. It is a good conductor of electricity. So these two will be made up of carbon, that is allotropes of carbon. So here if you observe, carbon is a non-metal that can exist in the different form, that is called allotrope. This is a important. They may ask what is allotropes. So allotropes are non-metal that can exist in a different form. Carbon forms of carbon, that is allotrope. Here it is a diamond is an allotrope of carbon. It is the hardest natural substance, is known as very high melting point and boiling point. And graphite is also a one allotrope of carbon. It is a good conductor of electricity. So exceptions what we have here, that is very important. So they may ask lead and mercury are metals, but it will be good conductors of electricity or bad conductors of electricity. Is a poor conductors of electricity. That is physical properties of metals and non-metals. So non-metals will produce acidic oxides when dissolved in water. So some metals that gives basic oxides. So some metals when reacts, some non-metals produce acidic oxides when dissolved in water. Most of the metals will rise to only basic oxides. That is, we'll see chemical react properties of metals. So physical properties, so we are classifying the metals into physical and chemical properties. So what we studied above, some it may be in the form of liquid, it shows a metal properties, like that exceptions what we studied that it will be different. So physical properties is not enough to classify the metals and non-metals, so that we'll see also chemical properties of metals. So chemical, if you come to the chemical properties, one of the chemical property it is what happens when metal burned in a air or metal reacts in the presence of air. So here you have to take metal reacts with the oxygen, you will get respective oxide, metal oxide. One example we studied in a chemical reactions and equations, that is copper when reacts with oxygen, you will get a copper oxide. That is brown in color. Then when it reacts with oxygen, it will be converted into copper oxide. It will be black. That is where, so chemical properties, first property is reaction of metals with air, I means metal with oxygen. So this metal oxide, what we are getting as a product when metal reacts with oxygen, this metal is basic in nature. That is, it shows most of that, it shows basic in nature. So this is very important when metals reacts with the oxygen, the product metal oxide we are getting. So what is the nature of metal oxides is basic in nature. What is the nature of this metal oxide is basic in nature. One more example, if you take aluminium when reacts with oxygen, you will get aluminium oxide. So aluminium oxide, if you take here what we are discussing above, so all the metals reacts with oxygen, it give a product. That product is basic in metal oxide is basic in nature. Here aluminium oxide is not basic. Then what it is? It is not basic. So usually we are getting the product is basic. Metal oxide is basic, but it is not. Aluminium oxide is not basic. So it is a amphoteric substances, that is amphoteric. So aluminum oxide, what we have here, we are getting a product is, that is amphoteric. So amphoteric means both acidic and basic property. So if it, when it will be reacts with acid, it will be acts like a base. So when it will be acid, it can react with the base. When it will become a base, it can be reacts with acid. So what is amphoteric means the amphoteric oxide. So this is amphoteric oxide. What is amphoteric oxide? Amphoteric oxides are which are neither acidic nor basic. So it have both acidic and basic in nature. So last class we studied when metals react, metal oxides reacts with the oxygen. So here copper oxide reacts with the acids. So when metal oxide reacts with the acid, you are getting a salt and water. Why means it is a acid. So copper oxide we are getting is base. That is copper oxide is a base. that it is reacts with. Now you can understood chemical reactions and equations we studied. Base reacts with the oxygen, in that we took a metal oxide. So why metal oxide can react with the acid here is, so metal oxide is a base. So basic in nature, so it can be reacts with the acids to give salt and water. So that is, so we can know that why metal oxides can react with the acids means usually metal oxides are basic in nature. So base cannot react with base, but here it is a base reacts with the acid. So that is why such oxides, metal oxides, that is aluminum oxide and zinc oxide, it has both acidic as well as basic behavior. Some metal oxide with acids as well as with bases to produce a salt and water. When acid and base reacts each other, the products we will get is as salt plus water. Here metal oxide or aluminum oxide, it may react with the acid sometimes, it will be reacts with the bases sometimes, but when it will be reacts with the acid, it will be basic in nature. When it will be reacts with the base, it will be acidic nature to give salt and water, that is called amphoteric oxide. So this is very important for your examination. So aluminium oxide with examples, they will amphoteric nature of aluminium oxide they will ask. So what is amphoteric oxides? You can write the definition two ways. The oxides which are neither acidic nor basic. That is, or one more. The oxides which can react with acids and also bases to give salt and water, that is called amphoteric oxide. So first it is aluminium oxide you have to take. It is the acid. Now with this nature of aluminium oxide is basic in nature. When reacts with the acid, you will get AlCl3. That is plus H2O, salt and water you are getting. So here it is the acidic nature. So one important base it is NaOH. When aluminium oxide reacts with the base, you will get sodium aluminate, NaAlO2 and H2O, salt and water. So this is very important for your examination, that is amphoteric oxides. So some of the metals, so we studied, so this is very important. One more thing, you should note it down, this one. So when metals reacts with the oxygen, we are getting a metal oxide and some amphoteric oxides we are getting. So what will happen here? Most of the metals oxides are insoluble in water. Some can be dissolved in water to form alkalis. So if you take a sodium and potassium, if it dissolve in water, what will happen? It will be react with air and water. It will be, reaction will be vigorous. It takes the reaction very vigorously, very quickly it will react with oxygen and water. It will be vigorously, it will be react. Violently it will be react. So it is, and we will observe the fire when sodium and potassium reacts with the oxygen. So one main important thing, all the metals do not react with the oxygen in the same form. So all the chemical reactions, it takes place at a same way. So different metals shows a different reactivities towards a oxygen. That is what I said, potassium and sodium, when it will be react vigorously, that will catch the fire if you keep it open. So all the metals reacts with oxygen, but potassium and sodium, it will be, the reaction will be very vigorously, very quickly it will react and it will catch us a fire. To protect the accidents from that, prevent accident, we can immerse, we can keep these two metals in a kerosene. So here one important question they will ask, why potassium and sodium stored in a kerosene? Stored in kerosene because the reaction when it will be keep it open, it will reacts with the oxygen very vigorously and will catch the fire. To prevent this accidental fires, we have to immerse, we have to store the potassium and sodium in kerosene. So for ordinary temperature of surfaces metals, magnesium, aluminum and zinc converted into layer of oxide. So one more note, it is aluminum, magnesium, zinc and lead does not react easily to the oxygen because of the protective layer it will be present on that. When the layer it has, it will not react very quickly. It is not react easily because so this layer of oxide is called oxide film. So few metals they have layer, oxide layer so that they cannot react easily. Then if you take a gold, silver, platinum, it does not react. So that is why we can wear. So nothing will happen if we wear this gold and silver so that the gold and silver will be used to make ornaments. So it will not react with oxygen even at high temperature. So gold and silver do not react easily. Which metals it is not react with oxygen easily is silver and gold. So why it will be used to make ornaments? Here also one more questions. Why it is used to make ornaments means so it will not react with oxygen easily. Then one more iron if you take, iron does not react but iron fillings can burn in the presence of air. So this is one important question. Magnesium, lead, zinc, aluminum which do not react easily with the oxygen give a reason because they have protective layer that is layer of oxide that is called oxide film. So iron fillings burn vigorously when sprinkled to the flame. So iron easily does not burn on heating, but iron fillings it is some more thing it can be reacts. Then some more copper does not burn, but hot metal coated with a black colored layer of copper is copper oxide, and silver and gold do not react with the oxygen at all. So by using these, sodium is most reactive samples of a metals taken here is the reaction of magnesium is less vigorously implying as not reactive as sodium, but burning in oxygen does not help us to decide what about the reactivity of zinc, iron, copper and lead. So some more we can see how the metals reacts with water and some other chemical properties in the next class. So in this what the important things you should remember is if you come to the physical and chemical properties of metals and non-metals, that is you should know malleability, ductility, sonorous, then it is lustrous. Metals characters, non-metals have this, all this it will be absent in a non-metals, it will not show. And exceptions you should remember. So which mercury is a liquid, it is a metal. Mercury is a metal. What is the nature, whether it is a solid, liquid, solid or maybe liquid? So you should just know that the exceptions, that is mercury is a liquid, gallium and cesium have metals but it has less melting and boiling point. Some metals which can be all the metals are hard but sodium, potassium are very soft metals even that can be cut with a knife. That is very important questions. Then iodine is a non-metal but it is lustrous. Then allotropes of carbon. So usually non-metals are soft in nature but allotropes of carbon, if you take a diamond, it is very hard. So all the metals are good conductors of electricity but allotrope of carbon, that is graphite, it is good conductor of electricity. That is very important. Then what is allotrope is very important. So if you come to the chemical properties, so chemical properties here it is important thing is amphoteric oxides are amphoteric substances with two examples they may ask. So then why we should keep sodium and potassium in kerosene? We kept stored sodium and potassium in a kerosene. So here when sodium oxide reacts with the water, we will get sodium hydroxide. Potassium oxide it will be reacts with the H2O, we will get potassium hydroxide. So that is the reaction will be very vigorously if you keep it. It will be reacts easily with the air and it will catch us a fire. To avoid this accidental fires, we should keep immersed in a kerosene those metals. So this is the one chemical property of metals. We will see remaining in the next class. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe my channel.